Welcome to the Mirage GT build video series. In this video, we're going to be looking at assembling our braking components. This includes assembling the front and rear discs and disc bells, assembling and fitting the brake calipers, connecting the brake hoses, and connecting the handbrake cables. Remember, a full list of the torque settings used in this video can be found on our website using the link in the description below. With our uprights now in place, we're going to begin assembling and fitting our discs and disc bells. Notice the difference in shape between our front and rear discs. The front discs are vented and the rear discs are solid. The front and rear disc bells are also different in shape, so be sure that you have assigned them correctly before beginning the assembly. We're going to start with the rear discs first. Notice how one side of the rear disc has a slight ridge. Be sure to position this facing upwards. Again, we're going to be using some Loctite on our bolts here to secure them tightly in place. Our rear disc bells are now ready to fit to our uprights. We're going to fasten these loosely for now, as we will need to attach our spline adapters in a later video. Now onto the front discs. Be sure to position these discs with the bolts lining up on the inside of each disc. These should again only be attached loosely for now, as we will need to attach our spline adapters in a later video. Now that our discs and disc bells have been fitted, we're going to start preparing our brake calipers. We're going to start by attaching our anti-rattle clips, first to our rear brake calipers. And now we can repeat this step for each of our two front brake calipers. With all of our anti-rattle clips in place, we can now attach the brake calipers to our uprights. Next up are our brake hoses. Notice how each set of brake hoses are clearly marked to distinguish between the front and the rear. we're going to attach our front brake hoses first. We need to make sure that our copper washers are positioned on both sides of our hose, like so. The banjo bolt end of each hose needs to be attached to our caliper. Notice how the ends of these front brake hoses are slightly angled. The threaded end of our hose can now be connected to our brake brackets. Moving on to our rear brake hoses now. Notice how the banjo end of our rear brake hoses are straight instead of angled. We can now add our washers and connect these to our brake calipers and brackets. The final stage of fitting our braking components is to attach our handbrake cables. Notice how one end of each handbrake cable is fitted with a spring and clamp. We're going to connect these ends to our brake calipers. Our clamps can now be secured using the split pins provided. Next, we're going to add 2 clamps to our handbrake cables to connect them together. It's advisable to add tension to our cables at this point to ensure both cables are secured tightly, so you might need another pair of hands here. The lower cable can now be threaded around the pulley and secured using an additional clamp. With our handbrake cables secured tightly in place, we can now trim our cables to remove the excess length. And now, we're ready to move on to the next stage.